Alright, everybody. If the room looks a little bit chaotic, it's because I have all my model train stuff up here now. So, I figured, just like I did a few months ago with my action figures, I may as well do one with my model trains as well. So, without further ado, let's get right into this. So, just like with the previous video, it's going to be categorized, but not in the same manner as the previous video. Unlike with the action figures where it was categorized by series, I have it this time I'm going to have it categorized by owner, scale, and then type of equipment. So, let's get into it. Alright, so I'm going to kick this off with my locomotive fleet. As you can see, a good majority of it is Santa Fe. I have a soft spot for that railroad. So, to begin, this is the very first individual engine that I ever received. I believe I was 7 years old when I got this engine. A Santa Fe FTA passenger locomotive. Behind it is a Santa Fe PA. Next, in the next row, another PA and a PB. Next up, we have a Santa Fe F7 and an F7B. Next up, we have this, I believe this is a Fairbanks Morse unit. I'm not entirely sure. I'm sure somebody in the comments will tell me. And a couple of F7 shells. Next up, we have a Santa Fe 060 tender steam engine and a Santa Fe SD40-2, though it looks like this one may need a little bit of repair. It's missing the railing on the front. I'll probably cannibalize one of my other engines that doesn't need a railing on the front and then paint it yellow. Next, we have a Santa Fe GP40. And next, we have a GP30. Okay, now this one and the engine next to it have a hell of a story behind them. So the GP30 was also one of my first engines. But when I was moving, I don't remember exactly what happened. I know it was around the time of a move, but this engine completely disappeared. I remember being absolutely devastated. I guess it got lost in the packages or something, but it was just gone without a trace. So my dad got me this engine, a Santa Fe CF7 F7 rebuild, as a replacement for the GP30. But then, about a decade later, the GP30, this is from Walther's Proto 2000, by the way, it turned up on eBay for a surprisingly reasonable price. And I'm like, it can't be. Is that my engine? Turns out it was. The reason I was able to identify it was because of subtle damages that only I would notice because of treating it like garbage, like a RC car at age 9 or 10. But anyway, so I contacted the seller, I explained him the situation, and he said, all right, I'll sell it to you for a partial discount, and in exchange I'll repair those damages. And he kept his word, so yeah, that happened. All right, moving on, we have a Santa Fe GP20 from Tyco, and a Santa Fe GP9M from, I believe this is Walther's, and a Santa Fe GP60M, quite like this one, a Santa Fe FA passenger locomotive. I don't know if the Santa Fe actually had FAs, but I thought it looked cool, so I figured, okay, I'll go ahead and take it. Next, we have a Santa Fe F3. Note the third window in the middle. Anybody who remembers the children's educational game Lionel Train Town will understand why I specifically wanted the variant with the third window. Next, we have a U-28CG, an experimental passenger locomotive that was demoted to freight work after a nasty accident in 1969. We have a Santa Fe U-30CG, also in the same vein as the U-28. This is just a shell. I have to get it painted and put it on a chassis, but yeah. Another Santa Fe F7. This one is a freight variant. And then we have a trio of Santa Fe SD45s. Two of them are in the older yellow and blue, and the third one is in the newer variant. One of the two that are in the older version of the paint scheme has some damage inside to the motor. I gotta fix that, but I'll fix that. Or maybe I'll just have one tow the other, I don't know. Personally, I think I like the newer yellow and blue bonnet version. We have a Alco S1 switcher, a General Electric U33C, a U36B. I don't recall the Santa Fe having any GE engines from this time period besides the U28CG having the red and silver paint scheme. And finally, we have another Santa Fe F7, another freight variant. All right, moving on to the second row, we have my non-Santa Fe engines. Kicking it off, we have a Gulf Mobile and Ohio F7, a Southern Pacific ST45, a Rio Grande GP38, a Southern Pacific GP60, the Southern Pacific 4449, the Daylight, and this engine, a 282 Mikado from the Alaskan White Pass and Yukon Railway. I actually got this engine when I was up there back in 2018. Next, we have this Novelty F7B. It's from a brand called Hawthorne Village. It's celebrating, I believe, 50 years of, is that Cadillac? I'm not entirely sure. We have a pair of Southern Pacific F7s, a South Shore Brill trolley car. That was actually another one of the very first train cars that I ever received. You can tell it's missing a pantograph. And next we have the two engines from the Golden Spike picture. I believe the Transcontinental Railroad Jupiter on the left and the Union Pacific 119 on the right. A couple of Amtrak engines. On the left, we have an F40PH, an SDP40F in the middle, and an E7A on the right. Next, we have a Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy switch engine. And then finally, we have some Union Pacific power. We have a Union Pacific FA, a Union Pacific GP20, which is going to be a tow unit for another Union Pacific GP20 that I have, but I saved that for a different section of the video. When I get to that section, you'll understand why. Next, we have a Union Pacific GP38 high hood, kind of like the ones that are on the Norfolk Southern. And finally, a Union Pacific F7. Now, this Union Pacific F7 was the engine of the very first set that I ever received. It was this engine, a Burlington Northern gondola, a red hopper car, and a Union Pacific caboose. I'll get to those pieces of rolling stock in the next section of the video. Moving on to the third row, we have a Pennsy engine, just like the Fairbanks Morris engine on the Santa Fe line. Again, I'm not sure what kind of engine this is. I'm sure somebody will tell me. A Pennsy F7. It has some cracked glass. I need to fix that. A New York Central F7. And finally, a Penn Central GP40. The ill-fated result of the Pennsy and the New York Central coming together. And then finally, to end this section of the video, coming back to the Santa Fe, I'm ending this section of the video with the 5 engines that are like my absolute pride and joy. So, we have a Santa Fe FP45. I've seen the freshly restored number 108 at the Railroad Museum of Southern California, so it's like, okay, I have to have an FP45 in my fleet. Next, we have from Broadway Limited Imports, a Santa Fe E6. It has sound on board, and hell of a lot of detail, probably as close to the real thing as you can get. We have a Santa Fe F45, the freight variant of the FP45. I figured since I had the passenger variant, I may as well have the freight variant as well. We have from Cato Model Railways, a C44-9W. I quite like this engine. I think it's really cool. And finally, last but certainly not least, 484 Northern number 3751. After I sat in the driver's seat of the real one, I was like, I had to have a model of it. And fortunately, Broadway Limited Imports had one, so yeah. Alright, so that's it for this section. So what good is a bunch of locomotives if they don't have cars to pull? Locomotives, of course, naturally require coaches and cars. So that brings me into the next segment of the video, rolling stock. Alright, so I'm going to start down here at the beginning. We have a Combine Classic Western Days passenger coach, and then a line of Pennsylvania Railroad heavyweight coaches. Now, this one at the end, it was an observation car, but now it just looks like a set piece for a scrapyard scene, which I do plan on doing, so I'm gonna keep that one. Yeah, as you can see, I just patted it and it fell apart. Alright, next up we have a row of Union Pacific coaches, a couple of 1950s style, and then this little older style, Wild West style coach. Probably gonna go with those Golden Spike engines. Next, we have a row of Southern Pacific coaches, probably going to be pulled by the daylight. Now, we move on to the Santa Fe section. I have enough Santa Fe coaches for 2 dedicated passenger trains. So, I'm probably going to do the Super Chief and the Grand Canyon Limited. So, this first row is probably going to be the Chief. And then the second row, probably the Grand Canyon Limited. And then I had that really nice looking Santa Fe caboose at the end. Then we have a row of Amtrak cars. I believe this one and this one light up. So that's it for the passenger cars. Moving on to freight, we have this Hudson Bay oil and gas tanker car. Missouri Pacific covered hopper. This is the only covered hopper I have. I should probably get some more. A Maine Central gondola. A Rath's Black Hawk ham reefer, a Southern Railroad log car, a couple of tank cars, Cities Service, Hooker, Penn Salt, and Shell, a Santa Fe Grand Canyon line box car, gonna attach that one to the train I dedicate as the Grand Canyon Limited, a Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy empty top hopper, an Erie Lackawanna box car, a couple of long-length refrigerator cars. I think these were given to me by a friend. I don't remember where they came from. They just kind of showed up out of nowhere. And now here is the lineup of cars that I mentioned that went with that Union Pacific F7 in the first segment. The Burlington Northern Gondola, the MSL Hopper, and the Union Pacific Caboose. Now this one was a custom build by the previous owner, and not really a good one. I have to do some maintenance to it because it gets caught on the tracks. It's an Oscar Mayer refrigerator car, a couple of Louisville and Nashville hoppers, a Union Pacific caboose. Now this one actually came from a Hot Wheels set, but I'm including it here because it's a close enough to scale. A row of Swift refrigerators, Wilson Car Lines refrigerator, and finally a row of cabooses that I call Caboose Alley. Just look at that. That's a lot of cabooses. And then this little one right here went with the heavyweight old school Union Pacific coach. Okay, so here is a Penn Central hopper car. It's a kit that still needs to be put together, so yeah, Penn Central hopper car. Quite like the Penn Central. Okay, I decided this video wouldn't be complete without a dedicated section for the next generation of train fans, so here we go. Alright, to kick this off, we have these, the miscellaneous wooden stuff. So, starting off here, we have this Construction Express and a little green switch engine. I believe this Thomas the Tank Engine character's name is Duncan. He's got just some miscellaneous rolling stock. We've got Gordon. We've got, I think that's an Amtrak engine. There was actually a Amtrak engine made for kids. Okay, Stepney, Henry, a couple of steam engines with some miscellaneous rolling stock. That Dragon, a hand car, a box car, a believe, yeah, that's Ben. I don't have Bill. James, that had to be completely repainted. Percy, with a little gondola. Edward, Thomas with Annie and Clarabelle. A Santa Fe set. A little red switch engine. Toby the Tram engine with a Sodor mail baggage car. Mavis on the right, and I think this other Diesel on the left's name is Frank. Diesel 10 and Lady, she lost her funnel. The breakdown crane, another Percy. The Polar Express engine, a couple of Sodor tank wagons, another Santa Fe engine, and a Shell tanker car. Okay, moving on over here, we have this novelty train set. Comes with a Santa Fe engine and 2 freight cars. It's basically like a Hot Wheels set, I think. I'm not entirely sure. Alright, so moving on to the Thomas H.O. stuff. We have the helicopter, we have the Boss Man, Bertie the Bus, Toby the Tram engine, Percy, Henry, Gordon with his express coaches, Thomas with his coaches, and James. Yep, so that's the kitty stuff. As we go back over this stuff, you can tell these toys had a lot of play. The paintwork's pretty badly beat up on a lot of them. So yeah, that's that section. I totally forgot. I also have these 2 Lego trains. I thought they'd go good with the kid-friendly section. Okay, so we have the Super Chief and this BNSF engine with its little red caboose. I also have this little... Now, I know this one for sure is Hot Wheels. This is a Chesapeake and Ohio GP unit. Alright, so that's that. Alright, next up we have from Classic Lionel, the one and only Polar Express. Oh my god, I love this engine. So it's an engine with its classic tender and 3 coaches. We have that one, which had all the toys, that one with all the kids, and the observation car at the end. So yeah, that's the Polar Express. Something I've had for 15 years, and this is the first time it's ever been out of the box. So yeah, there's that. Alright, now before I move on to my dad's and my grandpa's stuff, I'm going to give these train sets their own dedicated section. Alright, so here we have the Santa Fe Flyer, complete with an EMV FTA like the one I mentioned before, a Wabash gondola, a Delaware and Hudson hopper, and a Santa Fe caboose. Now down here we have the Norfolk Southern Thoroughbred set, a Norfolk Southern F7, a Southern Railroad gondola, a former Norfolk and Western hopper, and a Norfolk Southern caboose. Over here, we have a Burlington Northern freight set. We have a Burlington Northern GP20, a New York Central boxcar, a rail wagon gondola, a Chicago and Northwestern reefer, and this caboose. Alright, this next section is the hand-me-downs from Dad. So, starting off over here, we have that previously mentioned GP20. It is completely broken down, as are all my dad's engines, unfortunately. Here we have a pair of Union Pacific Plymouth Shunters and a pair of Pennsylvania Railroad F7s. We have a couple of tanker cars, a Union Pacific reefer, another Union Pacific old style coach, a breakdown train that my dad claims Grandpa brought to him from Germany, a Santa Fe cattle car, a couple of flat cars carrying pipe pieces, a couple more cattle cars, Atlantic Coastline and Missouri Pacific, another Santa Fe caboose, a Pennsylvania Railroad gondola, another flatbed, a Union Pacific caboose. And now down here we have this Morel's, I believe that's what it says, Pride refrigerator car, and another one of those. Armor refrigeration line refrigerator car, a Reading hopper car, which I think Dad told me this one's his favorite of the cars, and another Union Pacific caboose. Just an example of one of Dad's set pieces that I'm going to put on the layout. And finally, this one. This, of all the set pieces, this one holds a lot of sentimental value. This one was made completely from scratch by Grandma. Every single piece was completely scratch built. The decals, you look inside, you can basically see what it is. It's popsicle sticks. So yeah, that's the hand-me-downs from Dad. In the next segment, we're going to get to the hand-me-downs from Grandpa. Oh, I almost forgot this lonely end scale set that I have. Getting this one was actually Mom's idea. She's thinking of doing a little end scale loop inside a coffee table or something. So we have a Santa Fe F7, a Denver, Rio Grande, and Western boxcar, a Burlington Northern gondola, and a little Santa Fe caboose. So that's the Bachmann End Scale Super Chief Starter Set. Okay, before I get to the stuff from Grandpa, I have these Lionel O-gauge sets that were given to me by a friend. So let's begin. We have this Union Pacific FA locomotive, a Conrail boxcar, a Pennsylvania Railroad gondola with a little truck inside, a Lionel flatbed, and a Lionel caboose. Next up, we have this novelty, pretty low quality as you can see, steam set. Although I'm pretty sure the Penn Central didn't have any steam engines. If they did, they were probably too costly to maintain. And then we have this one. It has no wheels though. Southern Pacific tender, Lionel gondola, and another Southern Pacific caboose. Alright, so that's that. Now to get to Grandpa's train. And finally, at long last, the crown jewels of this video, the hand-me-downs from my grandfather and great-grandfather. Let's do the one from Grandpa first. Alright, so we have a Lionel Lines Express set with a 464 Express engine with its Lionel logos tender, 3 Lionel Lines heavyweight passenger cars, and so that's the one from Grandpa. Oh, I still can't get over how gorgeous this engine looks. And finally, we have an Ives tin, made of pure tin train set from my great-grandfather. It's got to be a century old, and believe it or not, the engine is under its own power. We actually found a guy who was able to bring her back to life. Now I just got to find a way to bring Dad's engines back to life. But I think I discussed that already. So we have a Ives Railroad Lines steam engine and tender, and these 3 standard coaches. One on the end is an observation coach. So that's that. That's the train collection. I will admit, I'm not only happy that I got to share this stuff with you all, but at the same time, it was a nice refresher for me because we recently moved, and during the course of the move, all my model train stuff, albeit for one lonely Santa Fe engine, spent its time in a storage unit. So this was a nice, I'd kind of forgotten what all I had, so this was a nice refresher for me. And I'm happy I got to share that refresher with all of you. So, this is it. That's the model trains. This is Fleet Admiral 01 signing off.